All right, let's get right into it. In a world that feels like it's being pulled apart at the seams, with all the major powers really digging in their heels, there's this really fascinating, kind of quiet story playing out. It's a geopolitical puzzle about one country that might just be rewriting the playbook on diplomacy.
And that brings us to the big question for today, which comes straight from our source material. In this super complicated global game, what role is India actually playing behind the scenes? And could Delhi, of all places, be the unexpected peace broker we've all been waiting for? Let's unpack that.
So, to really get what India's up to, we first have to paint a picture of the world stage they're operating on. And let me tell you, it is a world packed with intense, overlapping rivalries. Understanding that landscape is absolutely key to seeing the incredible tightrope India's walking.
First up, you have the big one, the classic tension. On one side, you've got the United States, the longtime leader of the Western Alliance. And on the other, you have Russia, which is really pushing back, challenging that status quo and trying to assert its own influence. This is like the fundamental fault line in global politics.
Okay, now let's zoom in a bit to another major hotspot, the Middle East. Here, the main conflict is between Israel, which is a key ally of the US, and Iran, a huge regional power with completely different goals and friends. These two rivalries, they create this really complex, often volatile global situation where almost nobody is willing to try and bridge the gap.
So, with these massive conflicts as the backdrop, let's bring our main character onto the stage. This is where India comes in. And they're not picking a side. Instead, they're trying to pull off something incredibly difficult, what we're calling the Great Balancing Act.
So what in the world do we mean by a balancing act? Well, it's a very specific, very deliberate foreign policy. Basically, it means India is actively working to keep good, strong relationships with countries that are rivals or even enemies with each other. And the goal isn't just to be neutral, it's to avoid getting locked into one camp. That gives them a ton of flexibility and a surprising amount of influence.
And this is where it gets really amazing. Just look at the strategy in action. On the one hand, India is getting closer and closer with the United States, partnering on things like technology and security. But, and this is the big but, at the very same time, it's holding on to its historic and super important ties with Russia for things like energy and defense. Then you see them engaging deeply with Israel on innovation, while also keeping a direct line of communication open with Iran. It's wild. They are quite literally talking to everybody.
So why is this such a big deal? I mean, this isn't just some quirky diplomatic thing. There's a very specific reason we're zoning in on this right now. It points to a really significant, but totally under the radar, story that's unfolding as we look to the next couple of years.
And boom, this quote just nails it. The source material calls this strategy one of the most underappreciated diplomatic stories of 2026. Just let that sink in. The argument is that as we look ahead, in a world full of loud, angry conflicts, one of the most important things happening is this quiet, steady, bridge-building work that India is doing.
So if you remember one thing from this whole explainer, it's this. India is very carefully, very strategically positioning itself to be a neutral go-between for the world's biggest rivals. It's a strategy that takes a crazy amount of diplomatic skill, and if they can pull it off, the implications could be absolutely massive.
And all of this leaves us with one final, huge question to chew on. As the world gets more and more polarized, are the old ways of doing things, these rigid alliances, even enough anymore? Could this other way, this quiet, multi-directional diplomacy, this great balancing act, actually be the future of how we make peace? It's definitely something to think about.